part of the Earglue Media family of podcasts.
You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Adler and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mando Monday. I am your host, Mike, and I need to find my notes. So hold on one second here. There we go. All right. So you can no longer say Boba Fett does absolutely nothing in the saga itself here, because now Boba really is living up to that mystique that we've all come to know and love as kids. And I think a lot of that had to do with the old EU stuff that was, after Return of the Jedi and stuff, the character developed and stuff, which was an interesting take on Boba. Got like hair in my mouth here. But anyway, sorry about that. So, in any case, I just want to say this isn't going to be a typical episode. I'm going to talk about, I have questions really more than anything else. I don't have so much the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good news is 99% of this was a good episode. There wasn't much bad. The ugly out of this whole thing was probably Din Djarin or Pedro actually delivering his lines in the beginning with the baby, with the child, the baby, with Grogu, and how he was speaking. His acting was off in this episode, if you ask me, for the most part. And I don't know why. That could be just me. But in any case, one funny thing I wanted to mention was when I watched this with my daughter, because I like sharing stories of my daughter when she reacts to Star Wars. And another great moment came out when she sees the child sitting there on the seeing stone, and she sees him doing the Buddhist kind of meditation type thing with the little hands like this, right, like that. And she goes, "Oh, those are he's got little capiche hands. That's so cute." And I'm laughing, like, capiche hands? What? That's capiche. This is not capiche. But anyway, I thought that was hilarious. We were laughing over that. And whatnot. The other thing was, now when I first, as I'd mentioned, the ugly was Pedro and his lines and him delivering and stuff. So that took me out, and it was at 3 a.m. when I watched this. I watch this typically at 3 a.m. That's when I watch it. I get up right away to watch it so I don't get anything spoiled throughout the day. So I have to watch it. And then we have a 4 a.m. chat in Discord. So you guys could join that if you want to do the same thing. But I was kind of taken out of it because the way he was talking. Now, I knew in this episode we weren't going to see the Jedi that's going to show up or whatever. I'll get more into that later, but I was kind of half out of it. And all of a sudden I heard that sound, the sound of my favorite ship, the Slave One. And I was like sold. I woke up, I perked up, and from there on out, I was sold, and I love this episode. But I got some questions, and that's what this episode is going to be about here. Why did Din, I mean, I don't know why I'm saying Jin, but why did Din automatically assume when Fett lands that they were in trouble? Like, wouldn't you think, you put him on the seeing stone, maybe this is the Jedi, and he even asks him, says, "Are you a Jedi?" or whatever he says to Boba. And of course, Boba's not. So that was a little odd. I guess he sensed the danger. I guess when you've been in the business long enough, you kind of sense that, right? So I guess it's not too bad of a thing, right? That, he sensed danger there or whatever, for whatever reason. I don't know. It was just a little odd to assume that. But anyway. The Slave One issue. Now, this is one we debated quite a bit since Friday. Is, okay, if Boba was on Tatooine and had access to the Slave One, why didn't he leave Tatooine? I'm sure he did. Maybe he did. We don't know about that. Who knows? So my point being here is like, all right, if he had the Slave One, how come he didn't get his armor back from Cobb sooner than that? Well, got to thinking, I have to believe that he didn't know who had his armor, because I'm not sure he realized that. And so he probably found out, and he was on his way to do that. And Cobb and Mando, or Din, met up, teamed out, took out the Krayt Dragon, and that's why Boba didn't get the armor, and he obviously was tracking the Mando. That's the only thing that I can assume. I'm going to assume that's what happened. And which is funny, because in a way, I have to think that Din saved Cobb Vanth, because I'm pretty sure Boba would have killed Cobb. That's interesting. And now the other thing is, like, how did Boba Fett save Fennec? Obviously, he's got the Slave One, so he has access to or could technically leave and save Fennec, go somewhere, do whatever, and because that's some fancy cyborg tech she's got in there, and I guess the other question is, did that tech actually help her push the boulder over? I like to think it did, based on what we saw when she pulled the flap open and you saw those uh, gears and stuff. I assume that's kind of what helped. So anyway, the other thing that I was thinking of when I saw this, when I see Fennec showing her thing, and I'm thinking of Boba, I'm like, is Fett more machine now than man as well? Is he got some cybernetic stuff going on there as well? We know he's scarred and everything on his face and everything, which is really cool. I'm just curious if we'll find out uh, if uh, if he has some cyborg parts on him. That'll be interesting. I would imagine he has to have something, considering what he went through, right? I would think that's the case there. But in any case, the other thing is fate sometimes steps in and rescues the wretched, which I thought was a great line. And I got to thinking, who saved Fett? Is now I'm leading towards the Tuscans. I think everybody, you and everybody in our Discord, I believe, feels that way too. The Jawas, I don't think so. They just looted his stuff and took off. Or was it someone else? That's an interesting take because Fett is kind of, I don't want to say he's changed, but he seems more. It's kind of a combination of what Albert and I, we've been debating this. He's been saying Fett being redeemed. I don't want Fett to be redeemed. I want him to be the mercenary. It's about business and money. And that seems to be where he's landing on, although he seems to have, I guess, kind of a soft spot in a way. So he's kind of willing to help out a little bit more, it seems. And it was curious when he says, well, they're back, the Empire, because he profited off the Empire. I don't think he really cared, but I think he's interested and curious as to why they're back. I mean, he's back as well, right? And then it was weird with Fennec because they were going back and forth. It seemed like she was calling the shots at the time. So I don't know. I was a little, there's more questions than anything else. So the other thing is who or what was communicating with Grogu. Uh, we'll get into the Jedi that I suspect because we had a big debate on that. I want to say yesterday. Oh no, Saturday. I think we had the debate. Yeah, Saturday. I'm recording this on Sunday. So I'm just wondering if it was the Force itself. Was it the Jedi that he's going to meet and train with, or was he seeing all these events coming up? And I have that down here on my 13th question, and I'll get into more with that. So I'm just, again, more questions. I think we got some answers, but I think we got a lot more questions than anything else. So, and did Moff Gideon wait till the Force connection was over? Because then he sends in the Dark Troopers after the beam goes down and everything. If he did, we have to assume he knows how the stone works, how the Jedi Temple works, and that knowledge, which I think he does, because he seems maybe on the Thrawn kind of basis where he studies the history of the people or whatever. That's my assumption there. Just something that popped out to me when I watched it this morning again, because he did hold back, and then he fires on the ship as well. So, and then the other thing I thought was interesting: who was the mortar trooper with the clone markings on it? Now I know it looked like the clone commanders, and I had them, and I meant to put them here and show you. They're blue, like the 501st, and they have those markings on the chest and on the helmet and everything. But it was funny that I saw it, and I immediately thought of the clones because that color made me think of Cody, and I'm like, oh, is this the Cody Brigade? So I thought that was interesting that he was, firing a mortar. But anyway, so what will Din do for a new ship? That is the $1 million question. Now, we talked a little bit about it in Discord. I hope he doesn't get the slave one. I can't see him getting the slave one at all. That's going to stay with Boba. It was his father's ship as well as the armor. I can't see that happening. Will it be another familiar ship or a new ship? I hope it's it's got to be a new ship, right? Because that's how you sell action figures, right? So I'm just curious what he's going to get for a ship. I hope it's really cool. It seems interesting because Fett, with the Slave One, was able to sneak up to the cruiser ship without even really being noticed or anything. It's very stealthy, and I hope Din took note of that. Maybe he'll get a similar version of the Slave One as well, and or he'll modify it so he can do such things as that. The other question was, okay, we had this. I mentioned this morning in Discord, and I keep bringing up Discord because we keep having all these debates. So please feel free to join us in our Discord channel. You'll have a lot of fun there. The thing is, in the Rise of Skywalker, his ship is seen. Now, someone pointed out today, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's his ship. It's kind of maybe a surplus ship that he had. Maybe he gets another Razor Crest. I'm not sure. I kind of don't want him to do that. I kind of want the Razor Crest to be that, and then the one we see there is completely different. But I don't know. We'll see. What was the significance of the ball? Now, see, this seems to be an emphasis this year. It was last year too. We all took it as, oh, it's cute and stuff. But in our back of our minds, all of us must have thought this has something to do with his past somehow, some way. Whether it be training with the Jedi or whatever it may be. A lot of us immediately think of the Death Star because it looks like it and has a little hole in it. You think of the Death Star, but there's got to be some other meaning, and I just can't figure it out. But it seems like they're emphasizing that this season more than even last season. So I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Please join me in Discord again, and that's probably annoying everybody that I keep mentioning it. And let me know, or in the comments section below on YouTube here. Now this is an odd one with me, and I don't know if anyone else caught this, but it seemed like Din was fine with the child being taken. Fed asks him, says, well, we made a deal, we protect the child, make sure it's safe passage and all that stuff. And Dim's like, well, the child was taken. Like, really? You just said a few episodes before you would kill and hunt down someone if they laid a hand on him. And now here you are kind of like, it's okay. I'm off the hook now. I don't need to find babysitters and everything. So, I guess the Force was the babysitter this episode, right? So, and they failed at it. So I'm just curious. I mean, that was an odd thing at the moment. But anyway, now while Grogu was in the Force bubble there, which was really cool. That was done really well, and of course you had the Force butterflies, which ties into the comic with Darth Vader and stuff with the Force butterflies. I'm just curious, what did he see? Did he see the events to come? Did he see that he was going to have to fight the troopers, or did he see that the Dark Troopers were going to come, and maybe that's why he had to take a nap because he knew he had to save his energy to fight the stormtroopers up on the cruiser? Or I don't know. It's curious that he gets tired like Yoda quite often, like Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. He gets, I guess, when you're the Yoda species, when you're young, you're strong in the Force, you can't control it, and you kind of pass out. And even when you're old and you're getting to the point where you're diminished in age, there you kind of lose track of it, and you can't. You fall asleep and take a nap as well, because Yoda was exhausted when he raised Luke's ship, right? Which was a feat that he could do with no problem, right? Let's see what else we got here. Grogu is the donor they seek, right? But okay, now Luke is out there and Leia's out there. They kind of probably know this, that Luke is Force sensitive, right? And he's powerful, probably the most powerful Jedi that's out there, or a Force user. Why aren't they going after him? Maybe they are. Maybe there's a plan to do that if they could. Or is it because he took down the Empire? They're like, yeah, we're not going to go near them. Grogu's kind of similar. He's strong in the Force. We don't want to mess with those two. Not yet. We need to build up our forces before we take them and use them for the Emperor, Darth Sidious, which I assume is what it is. So the other thing I found was, are they trying to make Grogu more dark side, like does that energy, the dark side energy, if it grows in him, does that serve Darth Sidious better than if he was in the light? Just a curious thing, because he did a Force choke, he was moving the troopers around and whatever, and whatnot. And also I gotta say, Gideon saying you'll say you'll shoot your eye out, but I think he said you'll poke your eye out, or something like that, which is a homage to A Christmas Story, which is my favorite Christmas movie. And the gentleman who plays Ralphie, I believe, is a friend of Jon Favreau and Richard Rodriguez, I believe, as well. And that's why they use that line. I'm going to go with that. But anyway, those are the questions I had. I forgot a few. I'm sure you have some questions. I'm interested to hear and see what they are. We only got a few episodes left, so I'm going to do some observation. Grogu seems to be getting stronger in the Force and controlling it more now. Yes, he's still taking a nap or whatever, but he did his little capiche hands, as my daughter said, and he was very in tune to it, and receptive to whatever was going on there. He took his nap, okay, but when we were on the ship, he was, and even when he was catching the ball, he had a little bit more control, and I think that's what they're trying to demonstrate, is that he's getting more control and he's getting more powerful, and going forward when the Jedi shows up, that'll be interesting. The other thing I think we can all assume here is we're getting an Avengers or Defenders team up here. I would say more Defenders, because these people are more ragtag kind of a group of people, not like the Avengers and stuff. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting team up, and I assume the Jedi will join them and save in the last moments. I think that's where they're going. I could be wrong because this show has surprised me quite a bit, even though it's been predictable at times, but it's been surprising me quite a bit. I love how they just get right to the speculation we've all had over the summer, with Ahsoka, Boba Fett, now the Slave One, and everything that's happening. It's fantastic. I love that. So the big debate that we had in Discord, and we had this Saturday, we were going back and forth. Who's the Jedi that's going to come in the last minute to rescue everyone? So I made a little list and we'll go down it. There were other names that we threw out there as well. So I'm going to go with the likelihood of this is happening. Now, Mace is one that's thrown down, and it's an interesting one because if you wanted to bring Mace back into the fold, this is probably the best moment to do it and the most perfect moment. But I don't think they're going to go here. I give it like a 3% chance of happening. And it would be interesting and cool because he's like, he plays Nick Fury, right? Samuel L. Jackson. And then he gets the big team up with our Avengers here. That would be interesting. I don't see it happening. It would be interesting and cool if they brought it in, especially with Boba and how that dynamic would work. Even if any Jedi you bring in, it's going to be curious how Boba handles that. But I think Boba is more like a business guy and practical guy, like his father before him, right? Where he's like, all right, that's the past. I think Boba got. If you go into the Clone Wars, I think you could say Boba got over all that trauma of his father, losing his father and whatnot. So, but that's for the Boba Fett dissection that'll come with Albert and Jonesy and maybe even myself sometime. It's nice to know that we will actually be able to do that at some point. But anyway, moving on to the list, we got Ezra. This, if I had to put money on it, I would say out of characters in the past that Dave worked with, it's a possibility. I don't see it happening. You could use Ezra to get back to like Ahsoka and tie that all back in, but I don't think that's going to happen. Ezra's a mystery, and I think his story is going to be told. Like my friend Bob said, we're going back and forth. He's a very rookie when it comes to the lore and the knowledge of all this stuff that's going on, so he's constantly asking me. And he sided with me because I think he went on Wikipedia and found these things or whatever. I think he even says, well, that's another series for another time, I think. And I kind of agree with him. I give this maybe a 20% chance of happening. Ahsoka again, I'm going to say a 2% chance, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened because I could see her being in tune with things and then kind of showing up to the rescue just to get her one more time to kind of save the day and get them on track again. I don't know. I don't think so because I think she knows the child is special and the key to a lot of events going forward. So she might do that, but I don't think we're going to see Ahsoka again on this series. I think we'll see her on her own series. And then the other one, the most logical one, I'm going to give this like a 0.1% chance happening, and that's Luke, because obviously he's the Jedi running around doing things, but with Mark Hamill and all those things. And I don't want to see the gentleman that plays Winter Soldier, Sebastian, I believe his name is. I don't want to, I almost said Sebastian Shaw. I don't want to see him coming in, although he looks like him. I don't want anyone else playing Luke Skywalker. I would like if they went with the Rise of Skywalker thing, and yes, I'm going to be positive about the Rise of Skywalker. The CGI thing they did with Leia and Luke was pretty darn good, and if they could do it that way, I'd be okay with it. But I don't see this happening. I see a like 0.1% chance of it happening. Logically, story-wise, if Mark Hamill was younger or whatever, and this was done in the 90s or whatever, or the 80s, that would kind of make sense, but it doesn't make sense now. So where do we go from here? I put out Ram Koda from Battlefront 2 and 1, which would be interesting, but Kanan was kind of him. They kind of molded Kanan after him in a way, being blind and everything. It would be a cool nod and a deep cut and whatnot. But again, I give this like a 0.2% chance of happening. Cal from Fallen Jedi Order, I would say 50% chance of this happening. Maybe even more. I'll go 55. I'll go with 55. There's a good chance it would be a nice tie-in, and his group that he's hanging around with would be kind of in tune to something like this and finding him. I just don't know if they'll do it, but it'll be interesting if they did. Then the one that we all landed on in Discord, which was interesting that we came to this conclusion. Well, I wouldn't say we all agreed on this. I thought it was pretty cool if they did this, and I'm going to give 65% chance of this happening, and that's Quinlan Voss. It makes sense because he's kind of that rogue Jedi in the middle. He's touched the dark. He's been in the light, and he's kind of whatever. And it'd be interesting to see where he is at this point. Obviously, he would be older, and it would be really, really cool to see him and I think he'd be pretty good for a teacher for Grogu, and I think he would be more in tune. Like Ahsoka was very in tune with Grogu. I think Voss would be as well. Will we see it? 60%. I'll go with 65. I'll go 65. And the one that's most likely to happen is probably an unknown that we don't even know about. A brand new Jedi, which I would be in favor with. I'm okay with that. I think that's like a 90 something percent chance. I know my percentage is a little weird and my math is a little weird here. So don't yell at me. I'm just saying I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm just guessing off the top of my head. I think an unknown is going to happen, and I'm pretty cool with that being a completely new character. Maybe some obscure background character, as Albert said in Discord the other day, that we saw in the prequels that we didn't think anything of it and whatnot. So that'll be interesting. And maybe that's the character that rescues Grogu and sent him off his thing. That would be an interesting thing that his old master finds him and they connect again and the training continues or whatever. I don't know. Very interesting to see where we're going from here. But anyway, that's going to do it for me today. And I will see you guys next week. I almost didn't hit the button there. But anyway, I'm out of here. Make sure you check in with Albert and Jonesy. They're going to have a deep dive on this whole episode. And take care, everybody. You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.